Everyone, let me mute this. Just waiting for a few board members to join and we can get started. So just hang tight.
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
You're going to be advancing slides, correct?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Hi, Emily, and hi, Shaka. Nice to see you guys.
Hi, good morning. Oh, good morning. Good afternoon.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Christina, in the order, right? I'm seeing Rise, Higher Heights, and then our academic update.
Correct. I'm just checking on some board members since I don't see any yet. Even, I should say Bejo, since we have two on the call. I'm just waiting on a few more board members and then we can get started.
Got it. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Hello, Greg. So we do have two board members on the call, and it is 4:35. So if you'd like to get started, let me know.
Yes, I would.
So I will share my screen. Oh, wait, am I? A second. Okay. We have two agenda items on the for the meeting tonight. The first item is the two contracts that will be up for a vote at this regular meeting. And then we're going to go into a presentation on with some data. So I will hand it over to Dr. Negron and I will share my screen.
Thank you, Christina. So good afternoon, everybody. Today, I would like to begin by presenting information around a contract, ongoing contract with the Rice Network. And just to let you know, I do have the a representative from the Rice Network with us. That is Ms. Emily Palin, who is available. So you have questions to pose directly to her. I also have Suzanne Palmieri, who is a member in the Office of Academics that currently is the Assistant Director for Educational Initiatives and Innovation. Christina, I can go to the next page. Before I get started sharing some details about the contract, I wanted to make sure that we are grounded in our strategic operating plan, right? So here we have our four priorities, and this contract that we are going to be discussing aligns with the high quality teaching and learning priority. And specifically, it is aligned with our name strategy around increasing high school and post-secondary transition support. So again, that is where it lives, and that is how it's cohered with the work that we have been doing and also named in our strategic operating plan. Christina, next slide. Also, as a reminder, I wanted to take an opportunity for those who may be new to share that we have been working, right, on planning for post-secondary success through the financial support of the BART grant. So this contract would actually be funded with the BART grant funds that we received. At the time of planning for phase 3 of the BART grant, and those grants were approved by the board back on January of this year, we intentionally included Rice Network as partners in the proposal when we wrote the grant to BART Foundation. And we also intentionally wrote in BART into that budget and accounted for this work all the way to June of 2023, which is when that grant culminates. And again, all of it is to support the work around freshman success, which is one of our three-prong approach that we have been utilizing for post-secondary success work. Christina, I'm ready for the next slide. So we have successfully partnered with Connecticut Rice Network for several years now. And over the past 4 years, Rice High Schools have impacted grade 9 on-track rates by nearly 20 percentage points, while also decreasing subgroup achievement gaps and increasing school-wide graduation and college readiness rates. Again, this is among all the schools who are part of the Connecticut Rice Network. Our partnership with Rice will continue to support the high school transformation efforts through a focus again on grade 9 on-track achievement. And this is specific to Buckley, Hartford High, Kinsella, and Weaver, who are part of our high school redesign work. I do want to stress that, again, RISE is a nonprofit organization, again, with proven results here in Connecticut. And this work impacts school leaders, teachers, and counselors. So it isn't just support that goes to building leadership. It also support that goes directly to counselors working directly with our ninth graders, and also our teachers that right now are part of those freshman academies. And again, RISE works with all of these educators using data, because a lot of it is grounded in data, to pinpoint where the needs are, to form hypotheses, and then to create these professional learning communities that are problem solving and pursuing ideas that would be implemented to then advance student achievement, again, particularly in those ninth grade academies. Christine, I'm ready for the next slide. The development and implementation of highly effective freshman academies and capacity building to support ninth grade transition and success is part of the high school redesign work, which I stated a few minutes ago, which we began back in 2019. In this first calendar year, right, I'm talking now all of this 2021, the partnership with RISE has focused on supporting the work of establishing the conditions for freshman success by building capacity through professional learning and coaching in 4 domains. And those domains have been specific to strong and dedicated teams organized to support grade 9 student success. The second one is around system structures and policies that enable grade 9 collaboration and progress. And purpose. So clear and shared understanding around the importance of grade 9 on track, and also around practice, which is adaptation of mindsets and shifts in practices to support freshman success. So again, a lot of the work this year has been around people, processes, purpose, and practice, involving, again, I want to highlight those administrators that work directly with our freshman academy, or counselors, and or freshman academy teachers. Christine, if you can get me to the next next here. I just wanted to highlight again that a lot of the work is grounded on data, timely data, looking at how it is that our students are performing academically. And you see here a lot of data analysis that goes into this work, not only around attendance, a lot of work around attendance, a lot of work around, grades, how are they doing academically in each of their courses that are on their schedule, discipline-wise, what is happening with the students. And all of this informed by the RISE folks supporting our teachers in being very good in working with these data dashboards. And RISE also is responsible for preparing and maintaining these dashboards that are available, again, to all of our freshman academy teams. Christina, and here I just want to highlight, because often, right, I hear the question, and it's a great question that you pose as a board, right? So what are people saying? People that have been part of these partnerships, what do they have to say? So last year, in April, we were very intentional in going and actually serving the people that are directly impacted by the partnership. So here, for example, in that survey that involved, right, responses from the freshman academy teachers, the counselors, and the support staff at Buckley, Hartford High, Kinsella, and Weaver. It was conducted in late April. And this is what we heard. The Freshman Academy educators are agreeing, right? 100%. You see here, they are very proud to be a member of that Freshman Academy team because they're feeling supported. They're feeling like their work has purpose, that it has meaning. They're invested in this work. They have been there from day one, and they have that shared sense of purpose, that it isn't one person, it is about the entire team that is coming together to really impact grade 9 on track success. So I wanted to highlight again the data that we have from the people that are being impacted by this partnership. Now I want to transition us to what is it that this particular contract is going to do. So in this contract, which would be from starting in January to June, because these are done in 6 months increment, the specific scope of the work is here. So it will be, again, around fostering that ongoing professional learning community, right? All the people that I have named in those freshman academies, and they come together into these bi-monthly basis where they are deepening, again, and extending the work that they are doing to really be centered around their freshman success efforts. This scope also looks to design and facilitate cross-school grade 9 convening. So this is about RISE, right? Helping us prepare and deliver these convenings where we bring in all of the people involved with freshman academies across these 4 campuses. So across Buckley, Hartford High, Kinsella, and Weaver. It allows for these grade 9 assistant principals. These are the ones that lead these freshman academies. They receive direct coaching from the RISE network. Again, all around supporting them on their leadership and capacity to lead those freshman academies and support the work that they're doing with the teacher leaders. This is a new piece that we're adding in the scope, that we want to do more around building that capacity among teacher leaders, right? And spreading, spreading the ownership around leading these freshman academies. This scope also allows to promote the continued refinement of the data meetings that happen on an ongoing basis to be able to track where are the kids, where are they falling, what else do we need to put in place, so that, again, it's very timely in the moment, responding to what the kids need to keep them on track. And as I mentioned before, this scope of work will also continue, where RISE will maintain the data dashboard and continue to provide those user-friendly data tools to the freshman academy so that they can drive student success. And they will continue to work on the 4 domains that I named earlier. So building school capacity, right, around sustaining the systems and the structures and the practices that need to be in place to have effective freshman academy. And last but not least, there are also something that we added to the scope is that, knowing that we now have student success centers up and running at Hartford High and at Weaver, we want to tap into their expertise to also support us by providing coaching to the staff at the Student Success Center, again, in support of grade 9 repeater population. So we've added a few more pieces, and it's about to continue the work that has been happening. Again, that is named as part of the application that went into the Bard Foundation, for which we did receive the funds. And lastly, I just want to name that this contract, which is in the budget, is for $104,000, $104,034.50, again, from January to June. So that is the quick overview. on this particular contract, but I do want to open it up in case there are any questions. And again, I want to reiterate that we do have Emily Palin with us from Rice Network.
So I do have a question. This is Yvette. I appreciate the addition of sort of how the feedback that you're getting, and I imagine a survey went out, and 37 responded. Is that the entire pool of the Freshman Academy teams?
So in most of these teams, you usually have 4 core teachers, right? You have the ELA teacher, you have the math teacher, the social studies teacher, and the science teacher. Then you usually have a counselor that is assigned to support the Freshman Academy. And then there might be some other support staff that supports the Freshman Academy. And you also have that assistant principal that's dedicated to each of the Freshman Academy. And again, and we're speaking about the 4 campuses that we named.
So across all 4 campuses, we're talking about roughly around, what, 40 people?
Roughly.
Okay. So that's a high percentage of response. Okay.
If I remember correctly, I believe we had over an 80% response rate at each high school, which was really important to us because we wanted to make sure that, to Dr. McGrone's point, we were capturing educator voice. And we actually used the data collected here in one of those professional learning communities last spring to really reflect on what are we doing well and how can we continue to strengthen and improve these data team meetings. So yes, a high response rate was really important to make sure that we were capturing all of the voices and perspectives of the folks on the front line leading the work.
And just to understand the sense of time, that commitment through this work, through this contract. So you're saying bi-monthly meetings, and we're doing 6-month increments in terms of a contract. That means 3 meetings. And is that like all day retreats, or is this sprinkled across time? Just kind of get a sense, like what does this load look like on a teacher or teachers?
Absolutely. So every single month, there's a professional learning community meeting, and that's a 90-minute meeting during the school day. The 9th grade assistant principals attend each of those monthly meetings, and then every other month, those teacher leaders join the meetings. And again, it's during the contractual school day. Want to be cognizant and conscious of that. The coaching that occurs on a monthly basis, one-on-one with school teams, is also during the school day. So we work to understand prep periods and when folks are available and find times that are convenient for all involved. And importantly, we view this as the bread and butter and the day-to-day work that the grade 9 teams are doing. So really it's about amplifying the work that everyone is already doing in their day-to-day practice, rather than saying, okay, here's a whole new host of initiatives. It's about saying, team meetings that historically have happened, how do we really maximize and optimize the effectiveness of those gatherings?
So I'm also wondering about adaptability. We've gone through COVID. I'm wondering how is that presented in the implementation, and how has that been overcome or addressed among the teams?
Absolutely. So I would definitely say the 2021 school year was an interesting year to kick off this partnership. But the great news is that, sort of to those points of 100% of educators saying, yes, this is important work. I feel like I'm a part of something that is meaningful and impactful. A huge testament to the educators and administrators in Hartford, that even as these team meetings had to shift to a virtual format, we had educators saying, yes, this matters. Let's make it work in Google Meets. Let's make it work in Zoom. Even though that's not the easiest or the most ideal format. So that was really heartening to see that there's a great investment in the work. I think it's definitely fair to say, as just about every school across the state and country experienced, learning loss was a real issue this past year. But one of the things that we are really excited to see and will be excited to report back to all of you in the months ahead is the rebounding that schools are making this year. So each and every school during the first marking period is already significantly outpacing their on track rate this past year. So for one example, Buckley this past year, Q1 was at a 45% on track rate for their first time freshmen. This year, they're at a 73%. Weaver, a 47% to 74%. So yes, last year was a hard year, but really important that it seems like grade 9 educators are bought in, the mindsets are there that 9th grade is this make or break year that we need to support all of our students in transitioning from middle school to high school. And with those systems and structures laid last year, this year, I think we're really starting to see the student outcomes moving in the direction that all of us want to see.
I have a question, Chris, Ms. Santiago, was there, when it was mentioned, the slide, it was a slide that I heard like a 26%, like, do we have, I don't know if we could go back to it, or do we have like hard numbers, like this is where the student was, and this is where the students were, and this is where they are now? Sort of like what was just mentioned, but earlier on, Dr. Groen said it was like a 26% increase in something. I'm wondering, do we have something that just shows where they were and where they are now as a result of this partnership?
Miss Brody, I believe what I was referencing was back on slide 4, when I was trying to give an overview of RISE and the work that they have done in Connecticut. So that data was attributed to the data that they have for the work that has been done in Connecticut with high schools that are part of their network. And again, Emily, you can go deeper into that, but that is where I mentioned that over the past 4 years, right, where RISE high schools have impacted grade 9 on track rates by nearly 20 percentage points.
Okay, thank you. Do we have our data for our students that are a part of this work?
We could certainly look to provide that. I would say that last year was the first year of the partnership during the pandemic with virtual and remote learning. So I'd be interested to share last year's data as well as initial data from this year as students are now back in person 5 days per week. One thing that I could offer, we have been working with Hartford Public High School for a bit longer, for 5 years now, and their grade 9 on track rates have gone up about 10 percentage points over the course of that time. So we know that this is hard work. It is slow and steady work that we see those changes adding up over time. So we remain very optimistic and know that laying the structures, the policies, the systems really is the first step in then moving those student outcomes and closing opportunity gaps.
Yes, understanding the work and understanding is absolutely not going to be overnight, but I would appreciate our numbers so I can have a starting point as to where we were in that progress along this journey. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Ms. Brody, I'm going to make myself a note to make sure that Emily, because I know we've been tracking that data, so that we can highlight the practice for Hartford High, where there's more longitudinal data there, but then maybe we can provide the baseline, right, with the caveat that we were in our pandemic year, right, last year.
I mean, it even could be next committee meeting. That's fine. I just want to try to start keeping track of it myself.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we can look to provide a little bit of context, one of the things that we provide for every school every spring is a data report that provides a profile of who the 8th grade students are that are transitioning into 9th grade. And I think that that would be an important data set to compare with some of these early outcomes, because one of the things that was very striking to us over the course of the past year and a half is that the need profile of 8th grade students has changed remarkably, that there are more risk factors, lower attendance, lower grades, which is not at all an excuse or a desire to lower the bar of what we know our students, their potential and their talents. But I think it's an important bit of context for all of us to have as we, again, think about targets, goals, where we all want to be moving.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Just a quick question, and I think you sort of started to talk about it, Ms. Palin. I'm wondering, what are the sort of characteristics or barriers to success that stand in the way of maybe, more percentage points? You mentioned risk factors among 8th graders entering into 9th grade, lower attendance. Anything in the system that you see perhaps, the teams struggle with to perform under?
It's a great question. And unfortunately, we sort of take the approach that there isn't a silver bullet. So there's not one single lever to pull or one single thing that might cause challenges. But I think the biggest area of importance is already reflected in the district's strategic plan of naming that freshman success matters, because all of the national research tells us that 9th grade is that make or break year, that whether or not students are on track during 9th grade, meaning they pass enough courses, earn enough credits to become a sophomore after that first year, is the single most predictive factor of whether or not students will graduate on time. So the fact that all of you have elevated this as a core priority for the district is such a win and such a testament to all of your leadership and the work that you're advancing. In terms of some of the challenges that do get in the way, this year definitely saw higher rates of turnover at the administrator and teacher level across the comprehensive high schools. And again, that's not unique to Hartford. I think that is just something that we're seeing in the education sector right now. And yes, that means learning and relearning systems and routines, but it's also part of the work of getting this to be sticky, getting it to be lasting, and really thinking about how we transform our schools. So I would say the turnover is a variable, as well as thinking about use of time and making sure that that team meeting time exists in every single school, every single week. That is sacred time for teams to get together, think about equitable practice, talk about data, talk about the needs of their students, reach out to families and caregivers. So really making sure that that time is sacred and protected is something that we've worked really hard to do. And last year, with a lot of competing demands and pressures, was something that we really had to focus on. And then I think the other thing is making sure that all of our policies line up in the direction that we want. So talking about requirements around seat time and what goes into grades and how are grading practices consistent from teacher to teacher, content area to content area. Again, not challenges, just opportunities to look for coherence, alignment, and really how are we all organizing and supporting the success of our students.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
More questions from the board members? If not, we will move on to the next contract, and making sure I don't see anything in the chat. No. Okay, well, thank you for joining in.
Emily, thank you for being here.
Thank you all very much. We look forward to continuing the partnership.
Okay. We'll move on to the next contract.
So you ready for the next one?
Yes, let me share my screen again.
So while Christina's getting set up, I wanted to share that with me today, we have Dr. Shaka Felder McIntyre. She's the executive director from Higher Heights. And I also have Fallon Daniels, who is her own executive director of post-secondary success and alternative programming. So this contract is for Higher Heights. And this is a contract for which we had identified ESSER funding to be able to support it. Likewise, Christine, if you go to the next one. This contract is also supporting the strategy around increasing high school and post-secondary transition support. Christina, if we go to the next one. So to share a little bit about Higher Heights, again, it is Higher Heights Youth Empowerment Programs Incorporated. It is a college access program providing college preparation services to high school students and their families. So this is supports for not only the student, but also the family. Since its inception, the mission of Higher Heights has been to impact the lives of underrepresented college-bound students by empowering, encouraging, and equipping them to attain a post-secondary education. It has served more than 10,000 students through their college and career planning and preparatory readiness program. Christina, next slide. And wanted to give you some data again with this one, because last year we had a very small partnership with Higher Heights, and it was specific to Weaver High School. So in a very short amount of time, Higher Heights was able to provide over 800 hours of support in college planning process. And here you have the results of that engagement. So again, a 67% FAFSA completion rate among senior class. And let me just add one little personal experience here. I have a senior student right now in high school, and I was even having all kinds of difficulties going through this process. And I consider myself to be highly educated. And I just felt like, oh my God, like this is like so like stressful. So just to have the opportunity to provide, again, our students and our families this support, I can say personally would go a long way. They also, through their partnership, there were 54 scheduled virtual college tours that happened last year, 15 financial aid sessions that were offered, and we had 320 college applications. Again, and I want to highlight in a very short amount of time. In addition to that, in addition to the work that we're doing with Weaver, they were also supporting us at the district level. And Higher Heights led a district-wide virtual college fair and workshop last year that resulted in over 1,000 participating students. And again, we had a lot of colleges and universities that were present there with our kids from across New England. So I'm very grateful for the partnership between Dr. Felder McIntyre and Dr. Garcia Blocker last year, who were engaging in this work to support Weaver. So in our next slide, just wanted to again highlight what we believe is the value of this partnership. Right, there are clear needs related to college planning and post-secondary success that a partnership with Higher Heights can support. And you can see here, right, in this chart that we have developed for you, and that for these reasons, we identify Higher Heights as a potential partner to support this work. Again, leveraging the ESSER funding so that the funding goes directly, again, to our students and to our families as we are supporting their post-secondary success. Christine, I'm ready for the next one. And in terms of the the partnership, right? The very clear goals with this partnership. I apologize for the numbering system here. I don't know what happened. That is supposed to be a 1, 2, 3. But again, it is about increasing high school graduation rate and enrollment into post-secondary education in our 3 comprehensive high schools, Buckley, Hartford High, and Weaver High School. Increasing student academic performance in preparation for post-secondary education, and increasing student and family knowledge of post-secondary education options, preparation, and financing, because we all know I'm already stressing over that piece myself. In terms of outcomes, here would be the outcomes that we are going after. Increasing again our high school graduation rate, increasing the numbers of students applying for college and completing FAFSA applications. So through this contract, right, we want to see 60 to 100 students service per month, approximately 400 one-to-one sessions, increase again the FAFSA completion, and increase the number of college applications from the 3 comprehensive high schools, and increasing student academic performance and preparation for post-secondary education. And again, the family and student engagement around post-secondary education options, preparation, and financing. And on the right, you see some of the strategies in which that would be accomplished. So again, a lot around the district-wide and school-based college career messaging that goes out directly to our students and their parents, or district virtual college fairs, participating in the East Coast College Fair. There's a lot of work happening right now around middle school and high school transition. Like right now, we are starting to advertise some of those opportunities because we want to start early, talking about transition to high school. There will be a 9th and 10th grade college fair. And again, the workshops that would go directly right to parents to support them with the whole financial aid process. Here you can read some of the other pieces around the consulting and professional development that Higher Heights offers directly to the school counseling teams, and also to Fallon here at central office, so that we can leverage some of that expertise. And there's a little bit of work also around the academic tutoring and SAT prep that Higher Heights again offers directly to our students at the 3 comprehensive high schools. In terms of the specific details of the scope of work for this particular contract, here again, on the left, this would be the direct service that would go through to the comprehensive high schools. So you have the one-to-one mentorship and advisement to students and families. Again, assistance with college searches, admissions applications, financial aid applications, even offering writing and study skills workshops, scheduling those visits to colleges and participating in college fair. Again, all made available to Hartford High, Buckley, and Weaver. Also an emphasis on parent workshops, because again, we want to make sure that everybody's feeling supported, and the academic tutoring and the SAT test prep. In the summer, so meaning this summer, right, they would also provide summer access advisors, meaning people that are available to continue to support our students as they transition from our high school right into their first year of college. So it isn't like, okay, you graduated, we're done with you, right? We know a lot of students still need help to make sure that they can navigate that process and begin their first year of college. And then at the district wide, right, support that goes to the entire district. Here you have it on the right. So again, the consulting to the school counseling leads, professional development that is offered to school counselors. They also support us in curriculum support and development as it pertains to middle school seminar and advisory. And a lot aggressive messaging, right, that goes with intentionality, starting with the ninth graders and the 10th graders around those district-wide opportunities, and also getting the kids to participate in the college fairs. So that is what the contract would entail. Again, it is ESSER. This is a 2-year contract that we're speaking about. So we will be talking about happening from now all the way to the summer of 2023. Again, allocated into the ESSER funding, it is a total of $500,000 to be able to do that work. And here we wanted to give you a glimpse of what the things that we would do if the contract were to be approved. So you see some of the specifics and where the work would begin starting in January, and the work that would be specific for the seniors, and also the work that would be happening with our freshmen or sophomores and or juniors. So I will not read that to you, but that is there to give you insight into some of those details. And lastly, I did want to share some, then a great question that you always have is, you know, how will we monitor, right? That we are getting, like we're getting what we need for what we're paying for, that we're making a good investment. So this is where we would monitor performance data. So we would be looking and tracking the number of students that successfully complete a post-secondary plan, number of parents, right, that are being served through the supports that Higher Heights would offer, the number of college acceptance letters that students would receive at Buckley, Hartford High, and Weaver, the number of FAFSA completions that would be coming out of those 3 comprehensive high schools, the number of applications, right, scholarship applications that students would be completing, and also, of course, taking ongoing look at our student assessment data, in particular, particularly around the report cards and the SAT test scores. We would also look to conduct pre and post surveys, not only to the students, but also to the parents, right? To make sure that they do feel like they're getting the supports that they need. And of course, collecting feedback from the staff that would be impacted by the partnership. So the next chart, again, it was just to tell you specifically then what would be some of the work on the ground that Fallon, where I would have to lift if the contract were to be approved, to make sure that we're working immediately with Higher Heights to get everything rolling. And then with the full understanding that we know with all contracts, right, we bring it to you first in teaching and learning. Hopefully you would approve it to go to finance, and then hopefully that would go to approval to the entire board, Board of Education for vote, and then we would begin the work. So at this point, I'm going to pause and open it up for any questions that you might have, taking advantage that we do have Dr. Felder McIntyre here with us, and also Fallon Daniels.
I have a question, and thank you for that. So how are we separating the work that our staff is doing? Because you called out some items, right? The number of FAFSA, the number of this and that, and if we do not have this partnership, that those things still do happen, and we're saying as a result of this partnership, it would be increased. So how are we separating those numbers as to what our staff, like, are we, I guess I don't want to say it and sound this. I don't want it to sound like this, but I don't know any other way to say it. Like, not to give all the credit to this partnership. How are we saying our staff has the ability or the ability to do this amount of work with this partnership, and it increases to that? Do we have the capability to point that out?
So Ms. Rode, I think that that is a great question that you are bringing up. And what the first thing that I want to highlight, right, is when you think about the role of a counselor and how much is on the plate of a counselor, and even now how much more complex it is, because a lot of their energy, right, let's be real, a lot of it right now is just dealing and responding to the social emotional needs of our students, let alone then the advising that has to go in around college and career planning. All this work does happen in collaboration, but it then allows, right, for us to do a lot more, like what you're saying, because of what the partnership is able to bring forth. And if I go back to, I also want to reference, like, back in the deep study that we had in 2016 from Spring Point, which actually launched, right, or work around the high school redesign, that often we heard, right, like, we are not getting this level of support. Often I don't have this this targeted intentionality in helping me navigate this process. That I believe that this is the kind of support that this partnership allows us to do. Not that we would say, oh my God, without the partnership, nothing happens, because that isn't true, right? It's just not going to happen at the extent that we would be able to get it done with this partnership. I do also want to open it up to Fallon Daniels, because we have been doing a lot in trying to be very clear, right? And be support in how to navigate. If the plate is really full, how do we still support so that a person feels that, yes, I'm a counselor and I feel like I can still do the work that I was hired to do, and I'm not like drowning in the work. Fallon, so I'm actually going to invite you to kind of chime in.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And thank you for taking the time to hear me. And so I think what I will share with you is just my very brief and short story is that I came into the district and was very engaged in working one-to-one with the counselors across the district. I spent a lot of time in the high schools, and what I'm observing at this present time, and this is not unique to Hartford, I've been in a few districts, where students are really coming to their school counselors and seeking the supports to address some of the things related to their well-being, their overall well-being at this current state. And our counselors are really working hard, and they are trying to address the needs. And there are moments when, they have other things to address in their responsibilities, like scheduling, like monitoring on track for graduation, like having conversations around the FAFSA. They're not able to give it its fullest fidelity that it requires because they are spending a lot of time to support the needs of our children right now. So my intention is to support and facilitate a partnership. This is not to take away any responsibilities. This is about a partnership. This is about, we hear you, we're going to be here to support you, but we're also going to monitor, because we want to make sure, to Dr. Negron's point, is that we hear what we've gotten from the feedback, which is we want all of our children to have equitable access to preparing and planning for college and thinking about their career. And so in order to do that, we're hoping that through the partnership that we will be able to facilitate that and achieve those goals for every one of our children at the comprehensive high school. And so what I am doing and what I have been doing is collecting those data points of where we are right now. And that is what has allowed me to create that timeline that's within the slide deck and those monitoring outcomes. So I'm hoping to see indicators that, yes, we are still targeting and meeting the college and career goals that we have set forth for our children.
I also have another question. All students are not the same. Some might have thoughts about college and others might be on track and be interested, frankly, in trades. Is that a part of the conversation? It's been a while since, actually, I had never had guidance when I was leaving college. And that's a whole other conversation, but I'm just curious about again, sort of the word that I used earlier, adaptability of staff to have conversations with students who are not college ready, but certainly want to do something and perhaps with their hands and a trade. Just if you could share a little bit about the adaptability of staff's ability to talk about that.
Yeah, our staff is definitely equipped with understanding that the outcome is a career, right? College is the mean of getting to that career, right? And so we always ask our children, even in our upcoming events at the district level that we have for our youth, we're asking the question of where do you see yourself? We're using Naviance to get a measure of, what are your SMART goals? What would you like to accomplish by when? And so when counselors see this data that we're pulling from Naviance, they're actually having one-to-one conversations with our students to determine, okay, this college may be a good fit, or this trade may be a good fit, or what about a 2-year? And that's really what I like about the Higher Heights component, because they're bringing in that knowledge and resources to have a more in-depth conversation and also to provide a variety of understanding in regards to here's what we can offer in Connecticut, but we can also go outside of that and we can look at opportunities there as well. And so that's that deeper dialogue is why I also wanted to, uplift this as a partnership for Hartford Public Schools. And Dr. Felder, I don't know if you want to add or contribute to specifically some of the things that you do in regards to that career aspect conversation.
Yeah, well, again, thank you everyone for having us here. We're really excited to do this work. We started our partnership last spring, and like Dr. Negron said, in a very short period of time. When she says short period of time, we actually achieved all of that, and I think it was about 5 months. 5 months of work that was done. So we've been doing this work for a long time. This is what we do. This is what we live and we breathe. And to Director Daniel's point, it adds support to the school counselors because we're at the table with them and the counselors aren't alone in this process. And that's a very comfortable space for counselors to be in. And so they have a lot on their plate, 504s, IEPs, they have a lot on their plate in addition to the social emotional wellness. And so in working in partnership with them, we like to unpack the whole entire child and work in partnership with the school principals and the counselors to really figure out, where do we need to go in order to support the child? The conversations that we have with our students are not isolated. It's child and parent, because this process needs to include the parents along in this journey. And so, as you get to know us, you'll see us doing a lot with the families. You'll see your families becoming more educated about the process, becoming more comfortable with the process, because making a decision about post-secondary success, it is the child who does that walk, but it has to be a family decision. So when we talk about our E3 philosophy, empower, encourage, equipped, we're very intentional about that. And so I hope that answers your question, because, it's not only about the career side, it's about both of them working together, because even as we're advising students about the career piece, we have partners across the state and partners outside of the state to make sure that our students are best fit, what I like to call the day after graduation, to make sure that they're in a place that is of best fit to them and their family. So I hope that helps.
It does.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I thought I froze.
I do have another question, but I can yield for other board members to ask?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I have a question around students who may be undocumented. FAFSA might not be the indicator. That's possible. I'm wondering, how is the conversation different, particularly around the parent support? And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, so the conversation isn't actually different. It's the resources that change. So the conversation still needs to happen. One of the things that, we're very intentional about is that everyone deserves a right to have access to a post-secondary education, whether they are L student, a student with an IEP, 504, whatever, everyone deserves that right. And so it's the conversation actually does not change. It's just the resources around that in order for the child to get to that point changes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And so I'll just share, that is exactly the point that we're trying to accomplish, is that everyone has access to these resources, right? And we modify as best as possible. We accommodate to make sure that every Hartford Public School student, makes it with a plan the day after they graduate. It's just a non-negotiable. And so we want to make sure we target through this partnership that opportunity with clear deliverables, clear outcomes, and clear ways of measuring that along the way.
A final question from me, at least right now. I'm wondering, I thank you for the performance data, the upfront thinking about that, because that's always something that I'm focused on. I would like to hear sort of your best guess of the frequency that makes sense to check in on all of these pieces. I'd love to sort of have that as like a, if you will, a heartbeat of this timeline. So is it bi-monthly that tracks with your timeline? Go ahead, Dr.
It's
Shah.
more than that. It's every week. We have weekly goals for each building and for all of our student groups. So we're very much data heavy. Like Director Daniel said, we have to produce. And so in order to know that we're on track, we actually are tracking our data on a weekly basis. Getting ready for post-secondary success is very fast. And so doing monthly reports is just too late, or doing bi-monthly is just too late. So we have weekly goals that we set and we report out to her on.
And I love that. And so I would say, what's appropriate for us to check in as a committee? Because I would like to hear updates as you go, especially if you have the data on hand weekly.
Yeah, sure. Director Daniels, I don't know if I can answer that one.
No, I was unmuting. I have a weird laptop. I deal with this all the time. No, but I do believe that checking in monthly with this group, if that's possible, or every couple of months, is very appropriate. I say monthly for our seniors. The underclassmen that we're also going to be working with, we may be able to do that on a kind of like a semester basis or marking period basis, because we do want to talk a little bit about on track, and that's when the report cards come out. So yeah, I would say, in speaking about this upcoming class of 2022, it definitely makes sense to provide something for you monthly.
I have a question. What are, like, how does it look in terms of this partnership as it relates to like the staff we're getting, not staff we're getting, like from your organization, like the personnel, just so we can imagine, at least so I can imagine what that looks like in our schools.
Are you referring to gender or maybe demographics?
No, like how many staff are we, like, who are you providing to us? Like, is it how many individuals, that sort of thing?
So each building gets one college access advisor. And then there's one entire supervisor for Hartford Public Schools, in addition to the consultation that supports the district. And then we have a full summer staff for the college access work. And then we have an academic team for the tutoring and the SAT support. And that's by building, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So it's a large team.
Okay, so for so this is an Dr. Grohl, how many schools?
The
Is
three
this is for-
comprehensives,
Three.
Weaver, Hartford High, and Buckley.
Okay, so are we assuming that all the other schools do not need this support?
Scaling it up. We started with Weaver. We're going to scale it to this group. And we still have our community partners doing some work in our magnet schools. So we're just scaling it up instead of just chewing it all at one big point and not reaching our targets. Start small, work big was the vision.
Okay, I'm not too far removed from this process. I have a junior in college and it was sort of, and she did graduate from one of our magnet schools, but it was like, did you ask the counselor? And I know the counselor is meeting with other people, so I know they have that same struggle. I don't know in comparison, what that is, but definitely needing like someone to answer a question, at least for what we're doing, at home. So it's like, did you talk to a day? But you have to make an appointment. So that sort of thing. So I understand the urgency. I understand the need, definitely. But I was just trying to understand like what personnel that we're receiving as a result of this partnership. So thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay, doesn't sound like it. So again, Dr. Chaka Felder McIntyre, thank you so much for being here. And Fallon, thank you so much for being here to answer our questions.
Thank you all.
Okay, Christina, are we ready for the next one?
Can I ask a question, Dr. Negron, that's sort of related? Because in this committee, we briefly talked about the, and I don't know if this has, if it'll align with this, but it made me think of when we were talking about, I can't even remember what it was, so I'm about to mess it up, where the athletes need to, when they're going to the, NCAA, whatever, because I'm totally going to jack this up. So they need certain classes. They need to be on track from freshmen to be eligible for a scholarship. So this work seems like it's not the clearinghouse. Thank you.
Yes.
So it's not separate from this work, it seems like, because it's one of those things that needs to happen for an athlete, but it's total, in line with everything that we've discussed in this partnership. So I do wonder how we're going to make that work and make it a good experience for those students too.
But you are absolutely right. It's all aligned, and just, it's funny because Ms. Daniels and I have been talking about that piece. And again, this is all about making sure that we are providing the correct advising, right, to the students, depending on what it is that they want to do. So when we have those athletes, like you said, right, are we doing a good job in looking at the courses that they're taking? Are those the best courses that they need to be at? Because we know, right, the schools that they aspire to go to are going to be looking at that. Is their GPA, right, in part with what those schools are going to be looking at? Are they filling up those areas that are going to be appealing when it comes time to apply for those scholarships? So you're absolutely right. All of this, again, comes together and it's not disconnected. It's all one piece. It's all under that advising.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna move us to the next one because I'm also being cognizant of time. But again, thank you to the team for being here. I wanted to take an opportunity, and Dr. Silver is here with me today, and Chief Avila, and I also have members from my team. I have Vanessa Diaz Valencia from the Office of Academics, again, who you know, right? Supports the work around pre-K5. And I also have Katie Leonard with us today, who is in our office now, supporting the alignment of the pre-K5 work with the 6-12 work. And wanted to take an opportunity to give you and share with you where we are at as it relates to our fall academic data. And today I want to hone in on the ELA. The idea is, because it's a lot of data and I didn't want to throw it all at once, that next month, right, hopefully we'll have a few minutes like today where I can then give you the math data. And this way you will have a look at where we are at, again, as it pertains to our student academic performance at this point. So Christina, if you, again, we've seen this already, just grounding it again on our strategic operating plan, which we already reviewed. Wait, you went too fast. Hold there. So here, though, I do want to highlight, right, that we know and we realize there is a lot of work ahead. There's a lot of work ahead because we have to do better by our students and our families. And in our strategic operating plan, right, we have named the major goals of where it is that we want to be in 2024. So in like 3.5 years, right? Because it's almost January. And I want to lift right now that we are aiming to be at that 48% of grade 3 students meeting reading proficiency as measured by the Smarter Balance. We also are aiming to see an increase in the average percentage of target achieve up to 73% or higher. And that these are the measures related to ELA, right? When next month, I'm gonna have the same slide up, because then I'm gonna be digging in a little bit more into math, but I wanted to ground us in that, right? That we have a long way to go in these percentages. Christina, next slide. So in early literacy, again, looking at K5, here, again, a slide that you have seen, a slide that we have shared with the community, because we want to be very transparent. We are looking to increase 16% proficiency, which is where we were on SBAC 2021. And in 2023, right, we need to be at 48.8. That, to get there, that means that we are aiming for a 10.9 percentage point increase. And people might look like, well, that's only 10.9. Like, that is so easy. That is not as easy as it looks, that 10.9%. It means that it is about 12 grade 3 students, right? Aiming to increase, meaning the total increase will be 132 more students. So keeping that 16% that we had, and we know kids also regress, keeping that 16%, but also adding 132 more kids, getting them to proficiency, right, in grade 3, when they take that SBAC in right now, right, in 2022. So I want to make sure that I'm reiterating that this is like a very steep hill that we are trying to climb. With that context, then I want to let you know, give you insight into our fall academic data. So here in our next slide, you have our overall student performance on iReady. So I want to remind us that in year 2020, 2021, we shifted the assessment tool used for grades K-5 to include the iReady diagnostic. And the iReady diagnostic is an adaptive assessment that identifies the student's strengths and their weaknesses. It also measures growth and supports and data-driven differentiated instruction via the learning plan, right, that it allows you to create for a student. It now serves as our universal screener, meaning that we administer this right when kids come in, right after summer. So we administer in the fall, we do it one in the winter, and we do one at the end of the year. So we administer it 3 times to see how are the kids progressing. This slide represents, again, the overall performance. So this is all of our students, K-5. This is how they did when they took the assessment in mid-September. 98% of our students were accessed. 98% of the students took the assessment. I want to highlight that 6% perform on grade level, right? That means that these are the students that are most likely to achieve the standards then on Smarter Balance, because that's where the alignment is, right? That's why we track that band very closely on how can we get more kids to hit that green band in our iReady assessment. So right now, 50% of our students are in September, right? When they took it in the fall, are performing 1 grade level below, and 45% of our students across K-5 are performing 2 or more grade levels below. So that's how we began the year. In the next slide, we have an opportunity now to look at the performance by grade band, right? So here you have grade K, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Of course, I immediately go to 3rd grade, but here you have how it fared out. So overall, right, we see the 2 or more grade levels below band widens as we move up in grades, right? When you look at that kind of salmon color, red color, as you go up the grades, it's growing. I also want to highlight, right, that the research shows that literacy by grade 4, because that's that shift, right? By the time they get to grade 4, they now need to be they're learning to read K to 3, right? But once they start in 4th grade on, now they need to be reading so that they can learn, because that becomes foundation for all the other learning that will happen. So that is why that grade 3 is so crucial, and why we hone into grade 3 as our marker to see if we're getting our students ready. And you can also see that the high percentage of 5th graders with 2 or more grade levels behind is of concern, also because that's a transition year. So this is what we're paying close attention to right now, and what Vanessa has been all over in the work that she's leading, and also right now with Katie Leonard. In the next slide, I also wanted to give you a view into how this plays out when you look at our subgroups. So again, reiterating, right, that the dark green, that 6% that I mentioned, that's the percent of students meeting grade level standards. But you can see here that there are some significant disparities that are pretty urgent. Like you see that our students with disabilities, fewest proportion of students, right, are on grade level and have the largest portion of students with 2 or more grade levels below. And next are our multilingual learners. So not only is there a lot of work to be done overall, but then we also have the complexity, right, of our most needy students, where we do see the disparities in terms of the performance. In the next, so that's where we are. That's where we are based on the data. And I wanted to have an opportunity to share with you the actions, right, that we have been taking in pre-K 5 to try to continue to support our students in literacy. So over the course of the next 2 school years, right, in meaning this year and next year, you know that we have made a significant investment in what we call letters. And that is the training that is being offered right now to our teachers in grade 3 to really support them in understanding the science of reading. So that again, we can have top-notch people in front of our kids, supporting them with the art of learning how to read. Vanessa, I'm gonna let you chime in, if you don't mind, to give a little bit of more insight into the work that you have been leading for K-5.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Negron. Right, so letters, super exciting. And just to elaborate a little bit, we're training all of our K through 3 classroom teachers, special education teachers, TESOL teachers, multilingual coaches, literacy coaches. So it's really a super effort to get at the previous slide and make sure we're hitting the knowledge of all the practitioners that support our kiddos in the early grades. So that's really here, key action 2. Key action 1 goes hand in hand with the second key action around the letters training. And just to, I know that I've spoken to many of you before, but letters is really a deep professional learning experience around the science of reading. And so it's not in isolation just about the foundational skills. It really attends to both the decoding side of what reading looks like, as well as the comprehension side. There's 2 full years, and this year we're in volume 1, which is focusing on foundational skills. So really, like Dr. Negron said, learning to read and really around those decoding practices and vocabulary. Next year in volume 2, teachers will dig deeper into that language comprehension strand and look more at comprehension strategies, scaffolds for understanding different types of reading concepts, inferencing, and etc. And given that we're focusing really on the foundational skills this year, we're going to continue to use our foundational skills look for tool to really think about what is happening in the classroom relative to Foundations, which is our program that we implement in grades K through 3 around the foundational skills for whole group instruction. And then also our shift around small group instruction to give basically code emphasized lessons to the students that are in really in need of that. More practice in decoding and more personalized approach towards breaking up words and reading text. Along that kind of, again, they all really fit nicely together because key action 3 goes into how this lives in our MTSS framework and really thinking about, okay, so tier one, we have this, strong pedagogy happening around foundational skills. And then tier one, we also have small group instruction happening, but what's happening in tier two and tier three? And so my team has been working very closely with Ms. Doyle, the MTSS coordinator, to make sure that we're really giving kids not only what they need, but collaborating so that it's all in service of each other. And that our assessments that we're using to progress monitor and collect further data beyond iReady are in line with that. And then key action 4 is the only one that's a little bit more encompassing in the manner that it is around our K-5 high quality tier 1 instruction, and really thinking about what we're using for whole group across grades K through 5. And so really starting to think about but something that we need to adopt for K2 instruction, basically for whole group. We've been using a homegrown curriculum for quite some time. I know that you had some information around the TNTP audit report. And so we're in a position now to think about how we can bring something new potentially in the future. And so we're going to start that process this year and engaging getting a stakeholder group together across the district to start thinking about what our options are for K2. And then in grades 3 through 5, we're just continuing to work with some of our partners, currently ANET, to really build the rigor of the current curriculum that we have in order to help students make sure that they are accessing grade level standards and grade level texts.
Thank you, Vanessa. Christina, I can go to the next slide. So similarly in 6 through 12, and we can go to the next. Here, what you have is the results that we saw in the fall for Reading Plus. So similarly to the iReady diagnostic that we saw in K-5, we now use Reading Plus as our universal screener for students in 6 through 12. And again, this is very new. It is also an adaptive assessment, just like iReady, and it measures comprehension and vocabulary by also measuring comprehension-based silent reading rate and the motivation. And this assessment, it's new. We administer at the beginning of the year so that we have a pre, and we'll be administering it also at the end of the year, just to see how this will play out. Here you see that I want to know that we did have a smaller percentage of students who were assessed. Here we only had 68% of students assessed in the fall. And out of that, you see that 17% across 612 of those that were assessed are scoring on or above grade level, as measured by this new assessment. And then 6% are 1 grade level below, and 78% are 2 or more grade levels below. Similarly to the iReady, you would also look at the green band to see more of the alignment, to be indicative of how will the kids perform when it comes time to, in 3A, to take the smarter balance. Christina, I can go to the next slide. Here, similarly to the last slide, you're seeing the breakdown for the grades 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I want to highlight that we did mandate the assessment for grades 6, 10, and 11, 12 was optional by school. So that impacted a little bit that percentage rate that we indicated when I mentioned the 68%. So in terms of trends, again, we have a high percentage of students that are reading 3 or more grade levels below. And we are leveraging the Reading Plus data to work on the specific areas of student need, right? And what they need to move forward, including foundational reading skills, even with this older group of students, because clearly they are still in need. In the next slide, you're just gonna see, similarly to the K-5, the breakdown for the subgroups. And here, once again, in the last one, right, the greatest disparity was with our students with disabilities, followed by the multilingual. In this one, the greatest disparity is with our multilingual, followed by the students with disability. But nonetheless, again, huge disparities that we observed in our subgroups. And in the next slide, we have a little bit about what it is that we are doing right now to respond to the data. So I'm going to invite Katie Leonard to chime in here.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. So similar to as Vanessa had shared key actions for K-5, we have some pretty similar key actions as well. In 6 to 12, we are going to be using this data to prioritize the standards throughout all of the grade levels in our workshop implementation, for our workshop model implementation. And we want to be thinking about how some standards need to be taught explicitly while others can be embedded in authentic ways. And so we are going to try to prioritize the standards in that way. Another key action in 6 to 12 is growing teachers' knowledge and practice in small group instruction through professional learning. So our teachers in 7 to 12, when their education has been primarily on content-based versus actually how to teach reading. And so we are going to prioritize training our teachers in small group instruction in our professional learning sessions. And then for as far as Reading Plus, being that this is a new program for us, we would like to take a deeper dive into the Reading Plus data and leveraging this data to plan for individual and small group instruction. And we are also, similar to K-5, strengthening our intervention approach utilizing the MTSS framework as well.
Thank you, Katie. So that is 612. I also want to hone in on data related to our PSAT, because again, smarter balance, right? That's 3 to 8 at the high school level. We keep an eye on the PSAT because the marker then becomes their performance on SAT. Christina, you were good there. Here you see, just hone in on the chart on the left, because today we're discussing ELA. And this is the percentage of our students who met the benchmark when it was administered in the fall. So here you have grade 9, the 27%, grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. As a reminder, right, to meet benchmark, the scale score increases as you progress in the grade levels. And Christina, if you go to the next slide, you can see actually the scale scores, right? So you need, for the SAT in reading, right? When kids take the SAT, we want them to be at the 480. That is the benchmark, 480 for reading language arts. And we see here, right? If you look at grade 12, you see the 454. So we still have a little ways to go, but I want to highlight some positives here. Our trend, at least on the PSAT data, is that we are growing. The students are growing, right, as they progress through the years, which is what we want to see. But again, we have to get them to the 480 scale score. In the next one, just wanted to highlight that a lot of the work that is happening is that we are doing more emphasis around the use of Khan Academy. In the past, we were just accessing the free resource, but now through the partnership that we have with College Board, we are able now to leverage the official SAT practice, which again allows us to pull resources that we can build in to what the students are actually utilizing in their classes. Also know that a lot of this we're also going to be leveraging in all of our extended learning opportunities as well to continue to support the students in getting there. And like both Vanessa and Katie mentioned, we also tap into this work when we are doing our MTSS intervention work, as well as the courses that are provided at the high school level. And right now we are piloting in ELA interventions in grade 9 and grade 10 specifically in ELA. And here you see the math, because again, we're going to be touching upon this again next month when I come to you with the math information. And Christina, I think that's my ELA data. So I know we're a little bit over time, but I did want to open it up for any questions that you might have.
I didn't have a question. I have a comment that my college junior that I mentioned, Miss Leonard, I think you had her first grade, maybe kindergarten or first grade.
Kindergarten. I had her in kindergarten.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I just had a quick question, just so as I try to continue to learn how to be a good board member, I'm wondering if, and this could be offline, emailed preferably so I can digest it in writing. Is there any way I can get a sense of all of the supports, all of the contracts, and it doesn't have to be like blurbs, it could just be literally a list so that I can recall in my notes, what are the contracts that we have approved that are drivers of these outcomes?
Ms. Bello, I think I read your mind. I actually have a slide, it's just hidden.
Oh no, don't hide it.
Christina, are you able to pull it up?
Yeah, give me 1 second because I have the actual PowerPoint. What slide number is it?
I was trying to read your mind.
Yeah, and mine will always go there, so I'm pretty predictable.
Christina,
And I'm glad that you brought up the
slide-
question because, right, I want the community also to understand we are making a lot of investments to try to support our students because we know, like I mentioned before, we have to do better by them and their families. And there have been significant investments in our ESSER that were aligned to this work.
Is it slide 27?
Christina, I don't know what, yes, slide 27.
Okay, how do I unhide this? Hold on. Oh, you know what? I think good. 1 second.
So here, right, the new tool that we invested to be able to know where our older students are, or 6 to 12, that's the Reading Plus that I mentioned, right? That was an investment, which you see here, right? And we use ESSER funding to buy those licenses. The letters training that Vanessa spoke about, and this is why professional learning and that calendar, we have to stay true to that calendar. There is a huge investment that we made, and this is part of a 2-year process. So those are all the dollars that are going into the training that's going to all of these teachers in grade 3. the College Board contract, right? That now allows us to be able to have more resources to support with PSAT and SAT. The Intervene contract that you just approved at the last board meeting, that is going to go to, and again, we're gonna be targeting, like we mentioned, or tier 2, tier 3 kids. This is the data that we look at to identify the students, right? The Achievement Network contract that you approved a while back, that is support that goes directly to every building to be able to work with those instructional leadership teams to make sure that it's all eyes on what is happening in classrooms, what is the support that is going out to those teams, and the feedback that is going to teachers around the data and what students need. Some of the materials that we couldn't afford before, and I know Vanessa was really happy when I said, hey, Vanessa, we finally have funding for Haggerty materials. Again, these are materials that are inside our elementary classrooms, and or GEODs, again, materials in the hands of our teachers and in our classrooms. So there are a lot of investments. So when people say, what are you doing with all the ESSER funds? I am very grateful, because now, like, we have been able to put in supports that we desperately knew we needed and we could not afford before, and that ESSER has been able to do. The thing is that now we have to have urgency and we have to do the work. I know we're all exhausted. We are all exhausted. But these funds are not always going to be here, right? The supports are not always going to be here. So we have to maximize everything that we have now.
I really appreciate this slide. I'm hoping if we can also, again, this could be offline, Dr. Negron, and this is just for me, if you will. I'm selfishly asking for a cheat sheet, if you will, of these investments, the layering. This is perfect. I'd like to see sort of another column on, appropriate frequency of check-in. This is really scary. Honestly, these slides will probably keep me up. It's just there's a lot of red, and I'm concerned, and I know everybody is, and I'd like to make sure that we do utilize the resources, the very precious and rare resources that we have that actually move us more toward green, and so that I'd love to see sort of performance data check-ins, and then not in any prescriptive way, but in a way that makes sense, and so that we can continue to have these conversations here in committee, to see any changes, things that are maybe not going well. I hope we have the courage to reverse that and reroute that support to something that is working. Particularly concerned about students with disabilities, particularly concerned about multilinguals. Those are consistently not well. So just, I'm kind of just pointing out things that I'm reacting to, but appreciate that slide.
So, Ms. Bello, I can tell you that it keeps me up at night. And I know that the team is working very hard, very diligently to really think about what other supports can be put in place. Well, we also balance things out too, because we know, right, people are tired. And in terms of your request, I do know that, if I'm not mistaken, that as a whole, we are trying to create more of those cheat sheets that you mentioned, so that you'll be able to see not only these investments, but other investments and how they all relate to the priorities that were named in our strategic operating plan. So more stuff will be coming.
Dr. Negron, do you mind if I say one thing, Ms. Bella? I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to name that so many resources. And so from the literacy point of view, we know that also the research around adult practice says that the only way to shift practice is through coaching and feedback. And that's how you get implementation to happen, right? We can stand and deliver the PL, but if I'm not actually going in and monitoring and giving feedback to the adults around how they're implementing in their practice, we're not going to see change. So just wanted to name and highlight the importance of our instructional coaches.
Thank you, Vanessa, for highlighting that. Okay.
Question. Is this something, Dr. Negron, that you decided to put together, or that particular slide? Because a lot of board members have been like asking for something like this. So I'm thinking in all committees, I don't know if this is like a template that is commonly used to connect the investments to the work, but this would be beneficial across all committees, actually. But I didn't know if this is something that you just put together.
So Ms. Brody, I would love to take the credit, but I'm not going to do that because again, as a cabinet, we have been discussing how best, right, to really bring in and be more, because we felt like although we were sharing it and communicating it, right, the feedback, right, we were being good listeners. And the feedback was that somewhere is getting lost in translation. So we said, you know, we need to really now start aligning it so people understand, right, these contracts support what. And I think that's where the conversation began. I just happened to be the first one with a committee meeting this month. And immediately with the help of my fellow, thank you, Hannah, I said to Hannah, I want to get all the contracts that we've been using to support this work. So again, she worked with others to kind of get it together for me today, pertaining to what I was going to be sharing with you. But again, this is again what cabinet has been discussing.
Thank you, and then thank you to Ms. Bello for actually that other piece. Definitely is how we're monitoring it, because that is a reoccurring question from board members, so we can be well informed and know exactly what's going on, and things are clearer to us. But I don't know if that's something. Who brings it back? To the superintendent to say like that extra line that will be incredibly beneficial to board members.
I will deliver the message. I know Christina's here too, but I will make sure that I am delivering the message that we want to see then the monitoring.
Reminder, we have that document, that progress monitoring that we kind of plotted out for the whole year, the whole committees, the workshops. So maybe we can, in that, plot out revisiting this data like this, and we can work with the board members, because don't forget, board members, you have access to that document. And I'll send the link out again, just as a reminder, so you can kind of keep checking and saying, you know what, I think this would be a good fit for this meeting, et cetera, et cetera. But we will.
Again, I apologize that we ran over time. I thank you for your attention and your questions. Emily, thank you for staying for the whole piece. And to my team, again, thank you, because I know like we have all been working really hard, and I know that when it comes to the academic student achievement, we do lose sleep over it. We're not just saying that. And again, we appreciate any support that we could continue to get for the work that we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry, I was doing two things at once.
but trust me, it was very productive. And I appreciate all your hard work, and I guess I'll save all this happy stuff for the last meeting.